Welcome back, everybody. And we have Challee back with us today.
Yay!
And some exciting news.
Yes, I did. I am no longer pregnant. Woo! My daughter is beautiful and she decided to come 4 weeks earlier than expected. But she is doing very good. She came right before Thanksgiving. Yeah, and she's doing very, very good. But I'm back,
Thank you for being back.
of course.
So today, we're going to be covering some holiday stress. And so putting out a disclaimer, if there's any little ones that are in earshot, we're going to be covering some things around Christmas traditions. So being mindful to make sure that we're not the ones that break any news about anything. So introducing our topic, we're going to kind of talk about parenting around the holidays and some pressure around Christmas. So where do you think you want to start?
Oh my goodness. Okay, something newer that I've been doing is the elf.
Mm,
So
okay.
that was never a thing when I was growing up. And my husband never did it before either, so that was something new that we started with my son, and I regret it.
So starting out, for goodness, if there's anybody who doesn't know what the elf is, this is this little like elf figure that you
The
have to
elf
hide
on
around.
the shelf.
Okay. And what is it? Like you have to hide it every
Okay,
day.
so it comes with a book. The first time he comes with a book.
Okay.
But the premise of it is he is there during the day, and then every night he flies back to the North Pole to report back to Santa, and then he returns the next morning before you wake up. And he's in a different spot every day.
And we've also gotten kind of out of control with this too. Like these are entire scenes that look like they could be from a movie now that people are setting up, which are hilarious at times, but goodness, what a good amount of work that is.
Yeah, so there are definitely different types of parents when it comes to the elf, and I am the lazy type. Like, my elf, if we're lucky, moves. Like, he's been known to stay in the same spot for a couple days. But yeah, even just scrolling through TikTok, I'm like, God, I am failing as a parent, not doing these extravagant things. But also this freaking elf messes up the house. Like, I don't wanna do
Mhm.
that. Like, it messes up the counters. So maybe I just have a really well-behaved elf that doesn't get into too much trouble. I mean, my son's birthday is in December, so on my son's birthday, the elf brings him a little treat. But yeah, I'm trying to think of the coolest thing I've done. The one thing I do every year that my son actually looks forward to is we get an egg and we put it with the elf and we put some glitter and it says like sprinkle some glitter on the egg and when you get home from school, you can see the magic. And then when he gets home from school, which I have to remember to do, is there is a Kinder egg instead of a regular egg.
Oh,
Like, it has
okay.
magically turned into it. That is the extent of my yeah,
Very
I
cool. People can get pretty extravagant with
they
that.
can.
I've seen people get so creative with it, which for some people in their brain, like that works really well to be that creative. It can be an outlet. Other times, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine trying to think of something different each night and have it potentially top the night before or yeah.
Yeah, my son's dad, from what my son tells me, he's very into the elf, and so
Okay.
he does do, like, really cool scenes, and, like, my son will come back from being at dad's house and just tell me, like, the crazy wild stuff that the elf does at dad's house, and I'm just like, "Wow, that's cool." Definitely 2 different elf personalities there, like
Which makes sense. Each one has its own personality, right?
exactly, yes, so
Okay. So there can definitely be, sometimes some pressure around that as well. And so then the piece of it is that it's going back and reporting if the child is good or not so good.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah. He helps Santa keep an eye on him, but now, like, this year, I got away with only having 1 elf, but I feel like next year, my son hopefully still believes, and then I'll have to have 2, 1 for him and 1 for the baby.
Interesting.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where else do you think there can be some pressure around the holidays as a parent?
Definitely with giving gifts and being Santa. Like, being Santa is tough, I gotta tell you, because, like, if my son wants something and I'm like, That's a really expensive Christmas gift," he says, like, "That's okay, I'll ask Santa," and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah.
And so we have kind of since he was little, I've kind of done, like, Santa gets the smaller gifts. Mom and dad are in charge of the more expensive gifts.
Okay.
So, because it was always a fear of mine, like, I feel very lucky that I can do some extravagant things sometimes, but I would hate for him to go back to school and tell a classmate, like, "Santa brought me an iPad and a Nintendo Switch and all this stuff." I would hate for another kid to have to go home and ask their mom, like, why Santa didn't bring him that stuff. So any type of extravagant gifts always come from mom and dad.
This is something I've heard more recently, kind of over the past couple years a little bit more, and it has been really interesting because it's not something I thought of when I was younger. And it's something that as we're getting a little bit older, it's something that might come up a little bit more that Santa may not have the same financial ability. And it can really suck for the on the receiving end of what else that may make you think if it comes down to did Santa not love me as much, or was I not as good as the other kids that got these really extravagant things? So I've seen some more conversation about this of being mindful of like what Santa is bringing rather than it being every single present under the tree or these really big things, like you had said, but being able to have it be some of the more modest things. So then there's a little bit less pressure and then potentially bringing up some difficult emotions around like why maybe someone who didn't get all the larger gifts or the more expensive things from Santa. I definitely think that makes sense to be able to kind of scale that part of it back. What do you think working with kids, have you had that experience where anybody has been like upset or sad that like Santa didn't specifically bring them something? Or is it more along the lines of like you just being mindful of that?
No, it's more so just me being mindful. I actually have not had that experience
Okay.
working with kids. That makes me happy. But
Yeah.
also, gifts from mom and dad, that wasn't a thing when I was little. My mom, like, didn't ever get me Christmas gifts, and I remember being so confused, wondering, like, why my mom didn't, like, ever get me a gift,
Okay.
but I didn't wanna ask because you don't you're taught manners, so you don't
Yep.
wanna be rude and be like, "Where's my gift from you?" But
Right.
I remember thinking, like, "Why does my mom not give me Christmas gifts?" So, that's another reason why I make sure, like, majority no, probably, like, half and half come from mom and dad and then half and half from Santa.
Yeah. I think there can be a lot of pressure as a parent in that situation to be able to make sure that we're doing enough, but also being mindful of like sticking with what is within our means.
Mm.
I feel like that's really hard around the holidays is that there's so much pressure and so much expectation that it can really push us outside of what our comfort zone is or what maybe we need to be doing compared to what we feel like we should be doing.
When my son was, like, 3 or 4, I remember my goal was I wanted him to go to sleep with a few presents under the tree, and I wanted him to wake up and just the whole part of the room just be full of gifts, like how you see in the movies where they come
Yeah.
downstairs and there's just, like, a mountain of gifts, and so my goal for that Christmas was to do that, and I, like, swiped my credit card way more than I should have, but I did it. I did it. I think I have a picture of just, like, so many gifts, and I remember I was up till, like, 2 in the morning finishing wrapping, getting everything good, like, it looked amazing, and I remember he came down the hall and saw it, and it was, like, 5 seconds of excitement, and then he was so overwhelmed. He didn't know where to start. He was just like, "Okay," and then he opened so many gifts that he, like, didn't know what to do with any of them, and I am fairly certain, like, I probably still have some, like, down in the basement, still, like, brand new in boxes that he just never touched because what 4-year-old needs, like, a million things? So, hard lesson learned. Because then I was, like, miserable about it. Because 'cause I'm like, "I spent so much money giving him this magical Christmas morning, and he doesn't even wanna play with anything," and yep, so lesson learned.
So then we kind of tie an expectation to it of like, well, I went through all of this for you to have a great Christmas. And then it can leave us feeling like undervalued, underappreciated, maybe.
Mm,
So kind of we've talked about this many times on here of having unrealistic expectations.
yeah.
And
Yep.
so that kind of made me think of that of like, well, I did all these things in out of the kindness of your heart, like you wanted it to be a certain way, but then the reality of it is being overwhelmed. A 4-year-old needs that many things, and I think that goes up through the ages, is there's only so many things we can play with. There's only so many things that we can pay attention to, and at some point it gets overwhelming.
There's only so many things a 4-year-old can fit in his room. Yeah. But selfishly, I think that's also why I make sure that the, like, nicer, cooler stuff comes from mom and dad, because I've jokingly said this, but it's not always a joke. It's like, I don't want Santa taking my credit. If I'm gonna, like, one I think, when was it? Last Christmas? Yeah, last Christmas, the only gift from mom and dad was a trip to Disney. And I remember when I was younger, Santa brought me a trip to Disney. And I'm like, now that I'm a grown up, I'm like, I can't believe my mom let that man take the credit for it. Like, so that's a selfish reason why the bigger ticket items, I feel so bad saying this, but like, that's why the bigger things come from mom and dad. Cause like, that fat man is not taking my credit. Like, I want my kid to appreciate me and Santa.
Right. Well, I think that makes sense. I appreciate you sharing that piece of it. I didn't think about it in that way of like beyond the piece of like maybe everybody's Santa is not the same, but then also like there has to be some reward in it of being able to provide whatever is within our means, but be able to provide that and have some acknowledgement in a sense of that. I think that can be really tough because of wanting to do all of the things, wanting a kid to have the best Christmas possible. Our expectation and thought of what the best Christmas possible might be different than what the reality of the best Christmas is, too. I know for me, and I've heard this so many times, like the things that we remember as a kid are not every single gift we got. I don't think I could name maybe a couple of like, something that I really, really, really wanted, but many times we're not remembering, oh, I got that really cool thing years down the road. It's, wow, we were able to spend time with family, or we remember that Christmas tradition that might not have had anything to do with the presents either.
I have a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, again, my son was, like, 2 or 3, like, he was little, and his dad was working on Christmas, so it was just the 2 of us, and I was like, "I don't wanna, like, cook." Like, I'm not the best cook anyways, but, like, I don't wanna cook a whole meal for just the 2 of us, and I don't wanna do that, and so I was like, "You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna be a crappy mom," and I told my son, I'm like, "Stay in your Christmas PJs. I'm gonna stay in my Christmas PJs, and we're just going to Denny's. That's what we're doing." And so we went to Denny's in our Christmas jammies and got pancakes and hot chocolate. And I looked around and I just felt like the worst mom ever. I'm like, I can't even cook a meal for my kid. Like, I mean, like, all the feelings. Like, I do not even
Yeah.
deserve to have this precious child that I don't even want to cook a big dinner for. And then we got home and he was just like, "This was the best Christmas ever. Like, thank you so much for letting me stay in my jammies and go to Denny's." And like, the next year, that was all he remembered. He was like, "Are we going to Denny's again?" And I'm like, "Yes, we are." And so now it's our tradition. Every Christmas, we stay in our jammies and we go to we go to Denny's, and it's something that I felt so awful about. And like, same with my son. I don't think he could tell you any gifts he got for Christmas. He knows that every year we stay in our jammies and we go to Denny's.
I have heard that time and time again of talking with people, whether it be friends, family, or working with people, of the Christmas mistake or like the challenge around Christmas ended up being almost like that Christmas miracle thing that ended up being one of the most memorable parts, where it's something that the parent had beat themselves up over or had a lot of pressure and judged themselves about, but that ends up making something so interesting and so fun, and that's what sticks out. I think as a parent, you tend to put so much pressure on yourself for things to be perfect, where the kid finds enjoyment in the random things, the different things, the not the Hallmark movie looking thing.
Yeah, like me as a 30-year-old, my view of perfection at Christmas time versus like a 3-year-old's version of perfection, like, it's totally different, and
Right.
I'd rather go based off of what he likes, so.
I think we have a lot of Christmas movies with the way that
Mm.
Christmas is portrayed. There's so much pressure for it to be perfect, the perfect decoration, the perfect tree, the perfect gifts under the tree, all of these different things, but making our own unique traditions. I really think can be one of the most magical parts of the holiday season. Being able to bring it back down to what we enjoy. If it's sitting around, like going to Denny's, or if it's sitting around and playing some games on Christmas, rather than having to go travel, meet this,
Oh,
do all the different things.
yes.
Tough as a parent of all the different places you're pulled also.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't do that.
Oh,
When I had my son, I was like, "If we feel like going somewhere, we will, but otherwise, like, you can come to us if you want." But I remember as a kid, like, I would wake up early, I would unwrap my gifts, and then it was like, "Alright, we have to go to grandma's house, and we gotta do this," and I'm just like, "I'm not doing that to my kid. We wake up when we want, and there's no, like, obligation to go places. There's no time commitments, like, we just relax, and it's so stress-free."
how
Yeah.
different. I think that's something that so many people I know I have been in the past, like caught in that rut of you just spend the whole day traveling. You have so many different obligations and you want to meet all the expectations that are put. So
And traveling with kids is hard. Like, it's not fun, especially now with a baby. I mean, it's a lot. So, yep.
how do you work on not having to meet all those expectations? Like what is something that you did?
Sometimes we'll celebrate a different day. Like, my grandparents, they want to see my kids open the presents that they got them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course. So we might go up there on Christmas Eve instead and open presents on Christmas Eve. That way, on the actual day of Christmas, we don't feel obligated.
Okay.
And then it kinda spreads it out too, so they're not overwhelmed with all the gifts. So we might do, like, the day before Christmas or the day after or whatever, and just being very upfront with my family about it. My family has been wonderful, so they totally understand if I say, like, "Christmas is very overwhelming." So, would it be okay if we, did especially, and this is another kind of topic we can veer off to, my son, his Christmases are split.
Yeah.
So, his dad is going to have him on Christmas morning, and then I get him Christmas afternoon. So, like, trying to then factor in going everywhere and, we have my family, my husband's family. We only have my son half the day, like, it would just be insane. So, yeah, we try to work around that, but just being very upfront with my family and saying, like, "Hey, I have a very short amount of time, so
Mm.
we're just gonna spend it as a family in our house. So, would you rather celebrate on Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas? Like, which one would work better?" And kinda giving them a choice and
And that's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay to say no. It's okay to not meet
Yes.
everybody's expectations, especially with kids. I'm sure everybody would love to see them the day. And that's, if you were caught in that cycle of just running to every place that everybody wanted to see you guys, you spend that entire day in the car, you spend that entire day running around, and then you get home and you remember, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted.
Plus, you don't wanna see my son when he's overtired and overstimulated at the same time. It won't be enjoyable for any of us.
Right. So thinking about that with setting those boundaries, then you're really gonna have that quality time rather than just like the pressured time of, okay, well, we saw them on the holiday, but okay, did you see them for 5 minutes, you ate and then you left, or they rushed through presents because you had the next place to go, or setting up that different time, and you actually get to really go and have that quality time.
Yeah. 2 different households, though. That's hard for the holidays. My son has really good questions. If anybody has a better answer, I will take it,
Mhm.
but he is very smart. So he has asked me, like, because Santa goes to 2 different houses, does he cut his presents in half? Like, or does he get, like, the same amount of presents that he normally would at one house at both, or like how does that work? And so I told him, "No, I think each house gets their own presents. I don't think it's not separated. It's not like, okay, these are Richard's presents and now we're going to cut it in half."
Mhm.
It's cuz that was kind of one of the things I said when dad and I first split up was like, "Well, you get two Christmases." Like, that's so cool. Plus me and his dad are both like we love giving gifts.
Mhm.
So, I
It's a
don't
love language.
yeah, so I don't have to worry about like, he's gonna get lots of presents at my house and then only a few at dad's. Like, no, dad and I are both really good with doing Santa. Like,
Mhm.
we're both really good Santas. So I'm very lucky. But just the questions he comes out with, like before the elf came back, he was like, "Is it gonna be one elf going from house to house, or
Mm.
am I now gonna have a different elf at dad's house?" And I'm like, "Huh, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see."
See who comes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd be super curious how people like manage split households during Christmas, or if any of our viewers' children have come up with like crazy questions that have been impossible to answer. Let
I'm
me
sure.
know.
I'm sure they're out there though.
Chat.
I mean, in thinking about that many times, that is, this day and age, that's a little bit more the norm. So people are having to navigate this more often than having that like very, very traditional, this is exactly what we do. I think people are having to find the new traditions, the different ways to be able to celebrate, the different ways to then be able to show up then for the kids, but then also themselves, rather than just feeling as though you're running on E all the time, also.
I was dreading splitting holidays
Yeah.
when the separation first happened, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm gonna have a baby around for this Christmas, and I'm gonna have my son the second part of the day on Christmas. So he's gonna be with his dad Christmas Eve night into Christmas Eve morning, which sounds awful. Like, oh, you don't get to like see him wake up. No, that means I can sleep in. I don't have to stay up late and wait for this kid to fall asleep. Do you know what time kids fall asleep on Christmas Eve? Oh my, I have to threaten that kid. Like, I have to show him the radar and be like, Santa's almost here. Go to sleep. Like, and then I have to wait for him to fall asleep, and then I have to make sure he's asleep. And then it's like ninja style to try and like get the presents under the tree. And it's just chaos. And I was dreading doing that with a baby.
Ah,
Because, like, what if she cries in the middle of the night and wakes him up? So no, I'm not upset about it at all. It's very nice. And also she was supposed to come like 4 days before Christmas. So I was like, this will be great. I don't have to get up early cuz kids are crazy. They go to bed at like 11 on Christmas Eve and then they're up at like 4.
yeah.
And I'm like, "Bro."
That's so funny. I was definitely the like, my mom had to wake me up on Christmas morning. Like, I would just sleep in.
Oh god,
I
not
don't know, it's
me.
different.
Guys, this is how old I am. You ready? I remember every year for Christmas, my aunt would sleep over. And now I know it's because she would like sleep over with me in my room to like keep me in there so my mom could do the Santa thing. But I would fall asleep, I would wake up and we would sneak out to the living room and I would see that Santa came and I would have to call time and temperature to see what time it was because we didn't have cell phones or anything. And so I remember calling time and temperature to see what time it was, to see if it was too early to wake up my mom. So, yeah.
So there can be so much pressure around the holidays, and we're going to cover some more like holiday stress on a different episode, but like kind of around the parenting piece, around the children piece, there is so much pressure to have it done the perfect way. And I really just want to like drive home that that perfect way doesn't exist.
Mm-mm.
It's going to be perfect whatever way we do it, and whatever way you as the parent can find some enjoyment out of it. If you're sitting there Christmas morning because we've just gone however much money into credit card debt so that we could get all these presents, you might sit there resenting like the fact, oh, you didn't think that was good enough. You didn't think that was good. And then you're not in the moment. You're not enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Doing what we can within the means that we have, and that can be very little. It's the time spent coming up with those fun, different, wacky traditions to be able to spend that time, I think is something that really speaks volumes rather than having it be like the picture perfect way. I know in so many different conversations that I've had, I can kind of back to that piece that it's been like the mistake or the challenge that was really the memorable piece, and the kid never remembers it the way that it was going through your head or how you thought you messed everything up. It was they saw mom or dad come out on top, and this is what showed up for the kid, and so they don't see all that stress. So if you can minimize some of that stress, you're going to have a more enjoyable time too.
Okay, I have one more story
Yeah.
of when I was a kid. My mom had all my presents in like a big giant bag hidden behind the couch, and she was like ready to put them out. I learned this obviously as an adult. She fell asleep. She forgot to put my presents out from Santa. So I woke up with no presents. Okay. I can't imagine my mom in that moment. Like, she must have been like, oh my God, I failed. I failed. Someone come take this kid. Like, I failed Christmas. But instead, she was like, huh, that's weird. And then she like looked around and she was like, oh my gosh, all your presents are behind the couch. The dog must have scared Santa. And my mom, when I was growing up, she told me, she's like, I felt so bad. You were so mad at the dog for like weeks. That's something that I remember as a kid. I remember like the year that the dog scared Santa and he couldn't put my presents out.
Right.
And I'm like, way to make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
Good job, Marie.
And yeah, that happens more common than what we think. So kind of normalizing that piece of it is like there is no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, but like it happens and we can roll with it.
Hmm.
Make something fun.
Perfect is not memorable. Like, it's these imperfections that are
Mhm.
memorable. Yes.
So I think we would love to hear if there's any goodness, if there's any
Oh my
questions that have
gosh.
stumped you, if you can share those with us on how you were able to answer it. Just a little reminder as we're coming into this holiday season, it's coming up quicker than goodness. What I thought, taking some of that pressure off of ourselves. It doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to spend $1 million to have the perfect Christmas. Giving ourselves some grace, showing up in the moment, and being there with the people that we love. And sometimes that looks different for all of us. Maybe it's chosen family. Maybe it's volunteering, whatever that looks like,
Mhm.
but showing up authentically to us is going to give us a much better Christmas than trying to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with that perfect image. So just sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything to add before we close out for the episode?
No, I think you said it all. Yeah, don't compare yourself to the moms of Pinterest and TikTok. They're not real. It's all an illusion.
Yeah. So we do what makes us happy and what we can stand behind.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you guys for joining this week and happy holidays.
Yay, happy holidays.